Welcome back to the sunny city of Providence, Louisiana, where we can see the mountains off in the distance. The great mountains of Louisiana, which of course don't exist in real life, but they do exist here. And that's the beauty of gaming, isn't it? That anything is possible. So last time we were playing, we were kind of building farmland and just expanding the footprint of the city. I have a few ideas of things that we might want to do as the city grows. Things like building another mega freeway, or maybe even constructing a second large capital district. Really, the sky is the limit. There's no end to the things we can potentially do, so we're not going to limit ourselves. We're just going to have fun and see where it all takes us. And, of course, while we play, we will talk about all the other random things that come to mind. Today was one of my days off, and working the night shift, I now find, because I don't want to mess up my schedule, you know. I want to go to sleep in the morning and then get up in the afternoon and do something with my evening and do something with the night and then go to sleep again in the morning. It just works out a lot better if you're working a night shift to go ahead and just keep the same schedule. When you're not working, don't go back to sleeping at night and then you know, kind of have to switch back and forth, right? That's the hard part of working night shifts, having to switch back and forth, and you go from being at night to being during the day on your days off, and then you try to switch back and forth, and it just creates that kind of like a jet lag sort of feeling. So I don't really have any obligations when I'm not working, so there's not any reason why I can't just stay up all night, which is kind of peaceful in an interesting kind of way. It was actually quite interesting. Yesterday, it was about 72 degrees. Very nice and warm, and I went for a nice long walk down to the Cracker Barrel restaurant and had me a steak and shrimp meal there, which is pretty good, but a little bit overpriced. Seems like everything these days is overpriced. It kind of makes you not want to go out to eat, because you realize that you look at the menu and it says it's going to be $20, and then somehow $20 rounds up to $30 by the time you pay for whatever it is you're having to drink and stuff, and then you have to tip, and you know, it seems like it's hard, even for like more of a fast food kind of a situation. It's kind of hard to get out of those places without paying around $35 or $40. And you know, you have to ask, is the food really that good, you know, or would you be just as well off, or maybe better off, if you just go down to the Walmart store and pick up some things and then eat at home? But then again, if I have 3 days off, I don't really want to just sit at home the entire time. I want to get out there and see something. And even if I'm not going on any long trips, I still kind of want to get out and see something other than my four walls. So that's what I was doing. In any case, the shrimp and steak was pretty good, and then I made my way home, and it was a nice, comfortable walk. Took a few nice photos of the Sam's Club headquarters just because I was nearby it, and it's kind of interesting how Sam's Club, it's part of Walmart, but it's got its own headquarters, which is sort of off to the side. Sam's Club's always been a little bit weird like that. It's kind of... It's a Walmart company, but it's kind of like its own entity all at the same time. Anyways, that was yesterday. Today I got up and I thought, well, I guess I'll go down to Walmart and I'll do some shopping. Because, you know, what else have I got to do? So I went down there and I bought me a little Harry Potter Lego set. I put that together this evening. You know, while we're talking about Legos, I gotta say, I was thinking about this. Kind of crazy how, you know, we talk about how we want to get things done in life, you know? And then we just don't get around to it. And the truth is I guess life is sort of like a Lego set, isn't it? It's a deal where a lot of things seem like they're kind of far off and hard to get your head around, and you get lost in the weeds trying to think about, you know, how do you do it all, and what, you know, what's it all about, you know? And then you get so busy planning out your life, you never actually get around to living your life. And that's a trap of it all, isn't it? Life should be something that we just dive right on into and do it now, you know? Don't wait around and say, well, one of these days I'll get around to doing the things I want to do when I'm perfect and when I got it all figured out and stuff. Well, you ain't ever gonna all figure it all out, so you might as well just go out and do it, you know? Start putting together that Lego set. Don't get it and then set it there on the shelf for one day when you're gonna have time. And then maybe you find out that you never do get time because your life gets busy and goes right on by, and what started off as a few days turns into a few years, and before you know it, you're not even gonna get around to some of those things. Kind of like that Skyrim playthrough I've talked about doing for so long, and you know, it's on the bucket list, but somehow I just never really got around to it. And that's a bit of a shame, I'd say, when you never get around to things. It's not that you have to do everything in life. Like, mind you, it's all right if you just don't get around to some things, because life isn't one of those deals where if you don't do it all, you're missing out necessarily. But it's also true that sometimes if you just sit down and get to work on something for once, then you might be able to do a lot more than you realize, because when you start building a Lego set, it doesn't take very long to get it done. It's just easy to procrastinate and think, well, I don't have time to do it right now. Same thing with life. We probably can do a lot more things if we just go out there and do them right now. Speaking of that, I went down the road this evening, and after I finished up at the Walmart store, I didn't quite feel like going home. And so I thought, well, it's late at night, and maybe I'll just go ahead and go down the road. Because if you are heading on Interstate 49 south out of Fayetteville, you're going to go through what we call the Boston Mountains. And they're really more like hills than mountains, but they're about as close as you get to mountains in Arkansas. And they're really kind of the boundary where Northwest Arkansas begins and ends. And there's a vista when you're driving north on I-49 as you're making your way into town. You go over the top of this hill, and then you can see Fayetteville off in the distance. And if it's Christmas time, as it is now, you can see the lights of the buildings at Arkansas University. And it's real pretty. But usually when I'm going through there, it is also not particularly safe for me to take a picture because it's on the interstate. And I thought, well, today, since I have time and it's late at night and there's not a lot of cars on the interstate at this particular hour, why not go over there and take a picture of that? And so that's what I did. I went up on the freeway and I pulled over off on the side and took a moment and took a few pictures of the pretty vista of Fayetteville, Arkansas, as you're traveling north on Interstate 49. And that was kind of cool. And then I went a little further down and took a few pictures of the lighted Waffle House sign in Fayetteville, a little bit further down the road. Because, you know, if you think about it, there's not a whole lot more American and more true to what it's like to be part of the South than Waffle Houses lit up in the night. They say that the northern lights are in the north, and in the southern part of the United States, you have the southern lights, and well, the southern lights are Waffle House. So, you know, you take that or leave it as you wish. But in any case, a little bit of taking pictures of interesting things in the night, and then I came home and I built my Lego sets, and I got this little toy car that is themed like a Fanta. It's like the drink Fanta. It's one of those kind of Hot Wheels sort of cars, but it's got Fanta branding on it, and I like that because, well, there's a story about Fanta, and as it goes, the sugary drink Fanta started off in Germany, and the story behind it is it was owned by the Coca-Cola company, and then World War II broke out, and Coca-Cola said, well, wars broke out, so our business unit in Germany is pretty much closed, so we're just gonna have to say it's over for right now, shut it down. And so the Coca-Cola branch in Germany was cut off from the United States, the Western operations, and the manager of the Coca-Cola division in Germany, he had to shut it all down, but he didn't shut it down. He found local sourcing, and he kept the plants going, and before you know it, he'd turned Coca-Cola Germany into something called Fanta, a new company that made drinks kind of like Coca-Cola, but it wasn't Coca-Cola. And it was very successful. And the Germans liked Fanta. And the war was what it was. But as they always do, eventually the war ended. And you know what was interesting about it was he'd been faithful. He'd been faithful through it all. And after the war, he said, well, to the Coca-Cola company, here is all the profit that I made during that time. And here's the operations back. And so right after the war, Coca-Cola reassumed its business operations in Germany. And the brand Fanta was born And it really was born all because of one man's choice to be a faithful steward of something in extraordinary circumstances. So, I think that's an interesting testimony to how, if you are loyal when no one's watching, it can wind up paying off. And that's a pretty cool story. And it's a great example of how maybe one person can make a difference in the world. Nice to think about. Positive stories coming out of tragic events. In any case, then I figured, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and play some more City Skylines. So that kind of brought my evening full circle, and here we are. Been having some issues with the deceased people. Seem like they don't get picked up here in City Skylines. It's a bit unusual. Sometimes they don't get picked up, but I don't think it's really a game glitch necessarily. It's just like all the icons populate all at the same time. And it's just a little bit weird, you know? It's like the game generates the dispatches for hearses all at once, and then it doesn't generate any more until the next cycle. Like, that's what happens. It's weird. So you have moments when you have a whole bunch of dead people waiting to be collected, and then once they're collected, then you don't really have anything for the death care facilities to do until the next cycle begins. So you have these moments. Sometimes it seems like it's fine, and then suddenly you have all those icons pop up, and it's just a little bit weird, but it's all right. Our city is doing quite well. If we look at our happiness, we have, looks like we have some crime issues, we have some unemployment issues, a little bit of traffic and noise pollution, but nothing to worry too much about. So there's our farm area. We pretty much got filled out, some forestry and some cotton and some multiple purpose vegetable farming, livestock farming. And we have our beachfront here. We are going to develop this waterfront area as a park, I believe. And then we have the port area here. And somewhere by the water, we are going to want to create our space launch facility. I'm not super sure where, but I'm thinking one of these islands is going to be where we do it. So maybe that's what we should look at today. That would be kind of exciting, wouldn't it? To create a space launch facility. Let's go ahead and unlock the air travel and space center and international airport just for the fun of it. So at least if we want to, we can build those things, and then we can look and see how big they would be. Chirp X Space Center. Well, we could put it right there. And I was thinking that would be like a park area there, but you know, when I look at this, I kind of am inclined to say, why not make that the space launch facility, just because it seems like it fits perfectly there. But that would be a little bit boring, wouldn't it? Why not put it here on that island? We're going to put the space launch facility, and that way we can do some more interesting things with highway management and create the appearance of a secure island base there. It's over the water, it would kind of make sense, and then we can still have this other space over here for creating a municipal beachfront park of some sort. So we're going to just go ahead and purchase another couple tiles here and go back in there. You know, it's time for our city to reach for the stars, right? I mean, I would imagine being a first-rate city as we're trying to create, we've got to have a space launch facility here, and that's really iconic looking. You got to admit. And many times, space launch facilities are going to be in the south, and they're going to be near the water because you don't want them to launch rockets and then the rockets fall down on populated areas. So you want to launch them over the water. So there is space launch activity in South Texas. So stands to reason we could have some similar space launch activity in this town we're building in Louisiana as well. Now, what we're going to want to do is create a freeway access point. And I want to see if I can figure out how to, you know, branch off of this existing road. Might be a little bit tricky. There we go. It's always fun when you can do something interesting with road design. Instead of making it just like every other road, do something that's just kind of interesting and unique. So that's been my main goal in this build, really. To make this city unique and original. There we go. So we got a nice little flyover here. And we can bring it back down to grade gently. Doesn't look too steep or crazy. And then we can have another road parallel to it, which is gonna go over here and connect to that existing roadway. And if we want to be fair to traffic, we'll go ahead and provide our vehicles with a extra lane there. But I don't want people making U-turns here, so we're gonna have to fix this up. Now I guess I've really messed it up, haven't I? I guess that's not what I wanted to do. What I want is 5-lane asymmetric highway. That's what I wanted. There we go. Really messed it up there. Okay. I wonder if we can... Okay, there we go. Let's do that. That way, we now have a lane that enters and also adds functionality to this next exit. So that looks good. I think there's something a little bit weird about the alignment of that lane there, though. So let's go ahead and modify the placement of this on-ramp. It's nice to be able to kind of adjust the angle of roads a little bit. If they're not quite right, you can fix that. There we go. That looks pretty solid. No problem. I do think that the angle here is a little bit strange. So I don't know. I don't know if I can make it any better, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to redraw this road just a little bit. Maybe we'll use the kind of squiggly brush. Only problem is going to be getting the right angle while also getting our support beams to be where we want them to be. All right. I think that that's a little better. Maybe not absolutely perfect, but it will certainly suffice. So we have our entry to the space base. And I guess we'll do a 3-lane road here. 3-lane asymmetric road. If we wanted to, we could just do a one-way road. I might do that. A one-way road that just goes all the way around. Not super sure. I also don't really care for the double intersection there. So I think we're gonna just rework this whole thing. We'll go ahead and make it a one-way road that just loops all the way around the base. And then we'll create a parallel 2-lane highway here. And that should give us enough space to create a more natural off-ramp, if you will. It's a little bit finicky. Sometimes. But we got it. Thought that was going to work better than it is. See, I could. Maybe I don't want to do this at all. Maybe what I want to do is something like that. So one of the things about playing a game like this and why you can wind up so easily racking up a whole lot of hours playing, because the urge to be a perfectionist starts to kick in, and then next thing you know, you've spent a long time working on some of these simple deals. All right, I think that looks a lot better. Not sure I quite like the alignment though. Yep, that's just about perfect. Now we can have plenty of room to build our off ramp here. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to be satisfied with that. Definitely adds an interesting element to this interchange. And I think it's perfectly functional. So let's go ahead and add some sewer lines to the mainland. Having a few windmills to power the base kind of seems like something that might be cool. I don't know if the windmills would be in the way of the spaceships launching. Probably not. Because if the spaceship launches over here, then, well, there it goes. Maybe the windmills are not a good idea. Because there's not any wind, so I guess we'll scrap that idea. Because it wound up not being a great solution to the need for consistent power. So we'll just go ahead and run an underground power connection, because that'll take care of our power issues. And now we have a space launch center. Kind of cool. I think it definitely adds something to the skyline, to the coastline. It's interesting how when there is a space launch, people will go travel long distances to watch it. And I remember when the SLS rocket launched, I think in Florida, people were going back and forth, renting hotels so that they could see it launch, and then it would get canceled due to weather or something, and they would have to come back. It was kind of funny, but it was interesting. So thinking about what we're going to do here, we have a hospital, and maybe what we should build is a university. We could build a medical university or a technical university. Radio telescope also seems like something that would be a good thing to put over by the Space Launch Center. I wonder if we could fit the radio telescope in between there. Maybe not. We could put it here. Yeah, that works. We also have the city library, Chinese city library. That might be a nice building to put here near the park. But I don't think we'd want to put it like right by the road. I think we want to do something like put it right there, and then we'll draw a road, and we'll put some parking there. Maybe a couple of solar powered parking lots. And a bicycle parking hall. And we can have a couple motorcycle parking areas as well. That looks pretty good. Let's look at our park menu and see what kind of interesting parks there are. We could build a lighthouse. That's an interesting idea. Just a little road out here. Flatten out this island a little bit so that it doesn't look weird when we build a road there. Since this is supposed to be a park, maybe we should upgrade this to a pedestrian street. I didn't think about that, but now I am. Kind of doesn't make sense for it to be a park and then we have a road that people can't really walk on. But that looks pretty nice. There's a little bit of weird elevation there we can fix. That road's underwater there. I don't think I like the way there's that elevation dip there. I think we're gonna actually switch that over to to a quay. But then if I do that, I guess I guess I don't want to do. There we go. That's what I want. Or I guess not. I will accept that. That path looks okay. And now we can add more parks along it. A dockyard lounge park. Like, that's kind of cool. Here's a kind of an interesting sort of a Ferris wheel park. Just a little Ferris wheel. Haunted house park. That's pretty cool. Here we have a cafe. We'll put that out by the lighthouse. Well, maybe not, because that has vehicle parking, so it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be off the road. Maybe we'll put it there. Now, I forgot that there's also this enormous Ferris wheel, which is in the game. And I think we would be remiss if we didn't put the enormous Ferris wheel somewhere in here. I'm thinking we'll put it somewhere around right about there. I want the wheel actually to be perfectly aligned with that street. Dang it. Wants to snap to that road. And turn off snapping. There we go. That's pretty good. Then we'll add a pedestrian street. And that opens up a fair number of opportunities for us to expand our park more as time goes on. For some reason, we don't seem to be getting water out here. I guess it's probably too far away, so maybe we need another water tower. We'll put the water tower there, just so it doesn't interfere too much with the or there. Yeah, that's better. Because I don't want the water tower to detract from the aesthetic of the lighthouse. And now we can put a few low density waterfront commercial plots here, just so people have something to do when they come out here. See the lighthouse and get yourself some grilled shrimp or something. We can have a little bit of mixed use residential in here as well. I don't want to build up the area too much because I do want it to feel like a park, but we also have a few, like here we have a fountain. We could probably put that there. Fountain Plaza, that looks kind of nice. There's something weird going on with the elevation there. If we want to, eventually we might extend this pedestrian path all the way down across this part of the kind of peninsula there and on across this little island and then connect it back down over here. So we'd have this enormous kind of a waterfront park slash waterfront commercial district, which will be kind of cool, you know, like you get to go down there and visit the little shops and little waterfront amusement park area. And then you have this great wheel, enormous Ferris wheel that will attract people from all over who want to come and experience a day at the beach. And so we have probably a good place to end there. We've got ourselves a nice little space base, and we've got ourselves initial makings of a beachfront resort park. And we're just gonna fill in the whole area with assorted palm trees just to kind of make it look a little bit nicer. And probably at some point I'll also come back through and paint beach areas. Maybe even put some beach chairs and some of those props that'll make it look like kind of a place where people go to sit around and soak in the sun on the Gulf Shore. This is inspired by a southern city, but we really want it to feel like a city of the world when all things are said and done, so it'll be interesting to see how it turns out as we progress. I am hoping to keep on building this city out throughout, maybe even throughout the rest of the year. This will be the city of 2026, a new city for a new year, and it is so far shaping up to be quite a interesting metropolis. It certainly does feel different than anything I've ever built before. A lot more interesting angles and quirks and things that just make it feel like it kind of has a identity of its own. So, till next time, as always, thank you so much, and good luck on your adventures. Till next time.